There are a lot of things you might wake up regretting after a night of tequila and bad decisions. Accidentally summoning a demon to share your apartment. Not usually one of them. Let me back up. I only wanted a quiet night of drinking, Netflix, and failing to fold my laundry. I definitely didn't plan to read my ex's old History of Ancient Rituals book, which I stole purely for the weird illustrations, while seeing how many types of alcohol could fit in my fridge. But then, I found a chapter about summoning spirits, and, look, it was late. The Latin looked easy, and I'm not known for impulse control after 4 shots. So when I giggled, "Let's see if this works," and did my best to read the chant aloud, very, very badly, slurring the words somewhere around Diabolus, Domesticus. That's when the lights flickered, the air went sulphurous, and a huge, shirtless man popped into my living room in a burst of fire and smoke. He sniffed the air. "Who summoned me?" His voice was deep, smooth, and vaguely threatening, like velvet wrapped around a chainsaw. "Huh," I croaked, clutching my soda like a weapon, because apparently that's what passes for self-defense at 2 a.m. A tall, muscular man, or, well, demon, was standing in the middle of my living room, smoke curling around him like he'd stepped straight out of a volcano photo shoot. His amber eyes glowed faintly as he scanned the room. He looked offended, like personally, deeply offended by my entire existence. "This," he said slowly, gaze sweeping over the pizza-stained couch, the mountain of laundry that was maybe developing its own ecosystem, and the faint smell of instant noodles. "This is your lair." My apartment, actually." He blinked, unimpressed. "Pathetic." Before I could form words, he strode forward, grabbed my favorite hoodie off the chair, and pulled it over his shoulders like he was claiming a trophy. "Hey," I yelped, "that's mine." He glanced down at himself, tugging at the sleeves with an utterly self-satisfied smirk. "Not anymore." I stared, speechless. My hoodie had just been hijacked by a shirtless, 6-foot-something demon who apparently had a sense of entitlement larger than my student debt. Then it hit me, literally, as the weird, ancient book I'd been reading earlier slid off the table and smacked my foot. The book, the Latin, the accidental chanting while tipsy. "Oh my God," I whispered. "I actually summoned you, didn't I?" He arched a brow. "You butchered the pronunciation, mortal. You said Diabolus Domesticus, which roughly translates to household demon. You didn't summon a conqueror. You summoned a roommate." I blinked. "Wait, what?" He sighed dramatically, like explaining this was beneath him. "By ancient contract law. Ugh, I hate this part. Any mortal who summons a demon under the domestic binding clause." He waved his hand, and a faint glowing sigil appeared mid-air, shaped like a circle with pizza slices for runes. "Is must provide said demon shelter, sustenance, and an optional hoodie. The bond lasts until the summoner either dies or properly dismisses the demon in ritual Latin, which," he paused, glaring, "you clearly cannot pronounce." "You mean you're stuck here?" I asked, horrified. He crossed his arms, muscles flexing unfairly. "Temporarily. Until you learn how to pronounce ancient infernal Latin without sounding like you're ordering takeout." I just stood there, soda still in hand, trying to process the fact that I'd drunkenly bound a demon roommate to my 1-bedroom apartment. "So, you can't go back?" "Not until you dismiss me properly," he grumbled. "Which could take centuries, given your diction." I blinked. "You're serious?" He nodded gravely. "You're my summoner. You're responsible for my earthly well-being. That includes food, lodging, and everything else mortal." I groaned, rubbing my face. "This is the dumbest thing that's ever happened to me." He smirked, lounging across the couch. My couch, like he'd lived here forever. "Incorrect. The dumbest thing was your attempt at summoning me after 4 shots of vodka." "Okay, fair." He looked around, appraising the apartment like he was already redecorating it in his mind. "I'll take the left side of the couch. You can have whatever's left after my naps." Also, fetch me snacks. Preferably pizza. Extra cheese. Wait, hold on. This isn't... He flicked his fingers, and suddenly the TV switched on by itself, Netflix queue glowing brightly. It's mine now, he said casually. Also, you snore. I've decided I blinked. You've been here 5 minutes. He raised a brow. 5 minutes too long, human. But since we're bound by contract law, get comfortable. You summoned me, you deal with me. And that's when I realized my quiet night of drinking was over. My hoodie was gone, and somehow I was now sharing an apartment with a hot, smug, slightly terrifying demon who was legally, magically stuck with me until I learned to pronounce Latin correctly. And honestly, I kind of couldn't wait to see what happened next. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of someone humming suspiciously loudly while poking around my fridge. What are you doing? I groaned, still half asleep and clutching my hoodie like it was a life raft. Checking your provisions, he replied, totally deadpan, as he pulled out a soda and cracked it open. You're meant to offer sustenance to your summoned entities. Very important rule. Wait, what? I sat up, squinting. You mean you don't just appear in someone's apartment and hog the couch? He turned slowly, soda in hand, grin spreading. Apparently, you humans are sloppy with hospitality. I will tolerate it. But only partially. He then proceeded to sit on the couch, stretching like he'd been living here for decades, and took a slice of leftover pizza. Acceptable. But your topping choices are questionable. I insist on proper demon-approved cheese ratios. Clearly, you need lessons I froze, because that was my last slice. No. That's mine. Also, what does demon-approved even mean? It means more cheese, obviously, he said, totally ignoring me and taking another slice. I groaned, pinching the bridge of my nose. You're insane. And also, really attractive for someone who just stole all my food. He smirked at me, and suddenly it felt like the pizza wasn't the only thing I wanted to taste. Later, we ended up on the couch, half his, half mine, and decided to watch a movie. I swear, if you pick another rom-com, I will summon minor demons to haunt you, he said, scrolling through Netflix like a king surveying his kingdom. Excuse me? I'm picking a classic, I snapped, grabbing the remote. He leaned over, brushing my hand with his as he reached for the remote, too. My chest did a weird, very unhelpful flip. Careful, I muttered, trying to pull away, but not really moving fast enough. Your warning is noted, he said, a smirk curling at the corner of his lips. After 15 minutes of bickering over what to watch, he finally caved, but not before lecturing me on story pacing and the emotional arcs humans overuse. I was half annoyed, half impressed, and very aware of how close he was sitting. By the time the movie started, I realized this was kind of fun. And also, he smelled like fire, and something else I definitely wanted to hug, which was not ideal. Mainly because I'd also just Googled how to banish a demon back to hell, and my search results looked like a mix of Catholic panic forums and Dungeons & Dragons fanfics. CR, apparently his name, because of course he had a name that sounded like an expensive brand of perfume, was sprawled across the couch in my hoodie, scrolling through my phone like he paid the bills here. I slammed the laptop shut. Okay, I found something. There's a dismissal incantation. If I say it right, you should theoretically go back home. He didn't even look up. Theoretically, he repeated, tone bone dry. As in, you'll probably summon a plague of cursed pigeons instead. I'm serious, I said. I can't just keep you here. You're a demon. He arched a perfect brow. And yet I'm the only one who's done the dishes today, I scowled. That's not the point. He sighed, putting down the phone with the air of a man, or demon, who decided to indulge a toddler. Fine. Go ahead. Let's hear it, mortal linguist. Impress me. I opened the laptop again, heart thudding. The page glowed with old runes. The the text twisting slightly, like it didn't appreciate being read by human eyes. Okay, it says to say, I squinted. Excreta, CR groaned. You just tried to say excrement in Infernal. I blinked. Wait, seriously? He pinched the bridge of his nose. You just told the underworld you wished to banish your own intestines. Please stop before you implode. Fine, I snapped, cheeks burning. Then help me pronounce it right. He eyed me warily. You realize if you mispronounce it worse, you could create a rift, summon something worse than me, or, gods forbid, bind us tighter. I'd rather not risk ending up as your permanent emotional support demon. Maybe I could use one, I muttered. His eyes flicked up. For half a second, his expression softened, something flickering behind the usual arrogance. Then he straightened again, all sarcasm and sharp teeth. You wouldn't survive me at full power, little mortal. I rolled my eyes. Yeah, big scary demon. Just help me before I accidentally marry you or something. He froze, actually froze. That's not off the table, he said slowly, in a tone that made my stomach flip for reasons I did not want to examine. Wait, what? But before I could finish, he stepped closer, eyes glowing faintly gold. Repeat after me then. Carefully. Slowly. Excarceratus diab. Excacartus diablo. Stop! He barked, hand shooting out, pressing over my mouth. His palm was warm, too warm, and I suddenly couldn't breathe right. Do you want to end up summoning my cousin, the Prince of Eternal Misery? He hissed. Because that's what you were about to do. I mumbled something against his hand that might have been sorry. He sighed and pulled back, muttering something in a low, rumbling voice that made the air shimmer faintly. There. Sealed again, I swallowed hard. You sealed it? He nodded. For both our sakes. Until you learn to speak without endangering the multiverse. Wow, great. So I'm stuck with you. He smirked, lounging back on the couch again, lazy and satisfied. You summoned me. You feed me. You can't pronounce a single word that would send me home? Yes, you're stuck with me. I groaned, sinking beside him. This is hell. He handed me a slice of pizza. Welcome to it. And as stupid as it was, as terrifying and ridiculous as the whole situation had become, I realized I was smiling. Because maybe, just maybe, I didn't mind him being stuck here. Not one bit. 2 days later. I was kneeling on the floor, attempting the Herculean task of folding laundry, something I normally avoid at all costs, when CR decided it was the perfect time to demonstrate his human domestic knowledge. No, he said sharply, snatching a hoodie from the pile with alarming force. This is all wrong. Humans fold like this. Before I could even blink, he launched the hoodie into the air, and somehow it hit the wall, bounced off a chair, and landed in a crumpled heap on the floor. Not a big deal, right? Wrong. He then grabbed a t-shirt and fling. It went spinning across the room, narrowly missing my cat, who gave him a glare that could kill. I scrambled back, trying to dodge a flying sock. Sayar, stop! You're destroying everything! He froze mid-fling, amber eyes locking onto mine. You find this funny? His voice was incredulous, but the slight quiver in his jaw betrayed him. Yes! Hilarious! Oh my God! I stumbled backward as a rogue sock landed on my head, and I literally collapsed in laughter onto the floor. Kiar looked utterly mortified. Mortified and slightly mesmerized at the way I was laughing uncontrollably, clutching my stomach while socks and shirts fell around me. My laughter echoed through the apartment, and I swear, he was blushing? A demon? Blushing? You humans are insane, he muttered, voice low, almost a growl, and I noticed a faint glow in his amber eyes. Cute, embarrassed glow. The thought made me snort mid-laugh. Later, I decided I should feed myself, because apparently that's a human necessity. Kiara, of course, decided my cooking attempts were unacceptable. "Add more spice. Not like that. Use the fire element," he barked, waving his hand over the pan. Flames leapt from the stove, hitting the ceiling for dramatic effect. TR, the fire alarm," I started, but he was already hovering over me, grabbing my hand mid-motion. Our fingers tangled, and suddenly my chest was fluttering in ways that had nothing to do with the heat from the flames. "Careful," he hissed, amber eyes flickering dangerously close to mine. Then he froze, shoulders stiff, staring at me like he'd never seen a human touch before. I snorted. "You're seriously flustered over cooking?" He growled softly, looking away as if staring at me was somehow offensive. "I am not. Humans are confusing." Meanwhile, a rogue chili exploded in the pan, sending smoke spiraling across the kitchen. The fire alarm wailed like a banshee, and I coughed as the smoke stung my eyes. Kaya stepped closer to help, and suddenly we were inches apart, noses almost touching. Pizza forgotten on the counter. Feathers from my laundry earlier were drifting in from the living room. Chaos everywhere. I couldn't help it. I grinned. "You know, I think you're kind of cute when you fail at being intimidating." He froze completely, jaw tightening, and I noticed the faintest twitch of amber flame flickering along his arms. "Do not say that." I laughed. "Chaos? Yes. Fire? Yes. Totally crushing on a demon? Also, yes." Later that night, I tried reclaiming my bed. CR had declared half of it his official napping territory, and I was not about to let him take over completely. "Excuse me," I said, tugging the blanket toward me. "This is my side." "You may not interfere," he said, eyes glowing faintly amber, looking far too serious for someone sprawled across a human-sized bed. "Oh, really?" I muttered, grabbing a pillow. I lightly swatted him in mock retaliation. His eyes went wide. "You dare!" And before I could react, he retaliated with lightning-fast reflexes, smacking me with one of my own pillows. Feathers exploded everywhere. The blanket tumbled off the bed. The cat bolted for cover. Chaos ensued. I yelped, laughing so hard I could barely breathe. "Kiar! Stop! Stop! Stop!" He lunged, swinging another pillow, and our hands collided mid-air. Amber eyes met mine, and my chest fluttered violently. Heartbeats? Sparks? Magic? Probably all of the above. "Stop," I said again, but even I knew it was hopeless. "I cannot," he admitted, face just inches from mine, jaw tight. "You are infuriating," I grinned, teasing him mercilessly. "And you're adorable when you're flustered." His entire body stiffened. His amber eyes glowed brighter. Heat radiated off him in waves that had nothing to do with fire. His smirk faltered, then disappeared entirely, replaced with something dangerously soft. And right then I realized, this demon roommate wasn't just confusing my life. He was confusing himself. And somehow, he was also driving me completely insane. A few weeks later. Sometimes at night, I'd catch Kiar staring out the window, tracing the summoning mark on his wrist. He looked lost, human almost. "Do you miss it? Hell? Or wherever you came from?" I asked one night. He paused. The glow in his eyes dimmed. "Demons aren't supposed to miss things. Missing makes you weak." He looked at me, and for the first time, didn't smirk. "But I think maybe I do. Or maybe I just don't know what I'm supposed to do now." I didn't know what to say. I just sat next to him, and that was enough. He growled, low, frustrated, but not entirely intimidating. "I cannot stop thinking about you, human." I blinked. Wait, what did he just say? My heart did a weird little flip as he scooted closer, reaching for my hands. Sparks flew, literally. I screamed, trying not to catch fire, and he yanked me into a stumble, right into him. And then, somehow, chaos and magic swirling all around us. He kissed me. Heated, flirty, slightly clumsy. My hands grabbed his shoulders while his hands tangled in my hair and hoodie. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't stop kissing him. And when he pulled back, just enough to catch a breath, his amber eyes glowed faintly, and he muttered, voice rough, "You are impossible." "Yes," I whispered back, grinning despite the chaos. "But apparently, I'm your kind of impossible." After the messy kiss pizza fire disaster, life didn't magically become calmer. If anything, it became more chaotic. Kayar had claimed half the apartment for demon purposes, but somehow that half now included my favorite hoodie. We argued, laughed, and wrestled over blankets every night. Netflix nights devolved into debates about toppings on pizza, and somehow every meal ended with either flour, magic sparks, or rogue pepperonis in my hair. To make things even more ridiculous, the summoning circle kept acting up. Items would levitate randomly, candles would explode, and one night, my couch literally started floating. It was obvious someone, or something, was sabotaging it. CR muttered under his breath about other demons with a sense of humor, while I rolled my eyes and tried to dodge a levitating mug. Through all of this chaos, we figured out boundaries. I get the hoodie sometimes. He gets the blanket sometimes. Extra cheese pizza is non-negotiable, and cuddles are mandatory on certain nights. One evening, we sat side by side, pizza in front of us, the air smelling faintly of burnt cheese and magic residue. I nudged him. You know, life is kind of perfect, even with all the chaos. He glanced at me, amber eyes soft, hair slightly mussed from earlier flying pizza debris. Humans make life complicated, he admitted, but also very enjoyable. I smiled, tossing him a slice. He caught it with ease, then leaned back into the couch. Blanket half over us, hoodie half missing. Pizza smeared on the counter. Perfect chaos. And somehow, that was exactly what home felt like. 2 weeks later, things got weirder. The night the apartment went cold. A shadow flickered in the corner. Then another demon stepped right out of my half-erased summoning chalk circle. He was tall, sharp-faced, all smug glares and swirling silver eyes. "Domestic bliss, Kiar?" he sneered. "Or are you just bored?" Siar's usual confidence turned to steel. "Ashadan, this has nothing to do with you," he said, voice clipped. The new demon tipped his head toward me. "This is the so-called human who tamed you? You must be even softer than we thought." Before I could process how dangerous he felt, kitchen knives whirled into the air, pointing at my throat. Huer bared his teeth, fire flaring along barely visible sigils. "Touch him and find out how soft I really am." With a dry laugh, Ashadan vanished in a shimmer of smoke and steel. Sia's shoulders sagged. "That's my cousin. He doesn't like seeing me happy." For the first time, it felt like our weird household had real enemies. A few nights later, I woke in a panic, cold, limbs heavy, a darkness curling around me. I was trapped in a warped summoning circle in the living room. Ashadan grinned across the chalk, eyes sharp as knives. "Ready to pay the price for your pet project, cousin?" he snarled. Before I could shout, Siar barreled into the room in a blaze of hellfire. "Let him go!" Flames leapt, sigils burned. Ashadan fought back with swirling shadow, but Siar stood between me and him, voice shaking but furious. "You want me gone? You want to prove I'm weak? Fine. But I'm not going back. I choose him." A thunderclap. Ashadan spun away, banished by the force of Kiar's own power. Kiar pulled me free, arms shaking. "Are you okay?" I hugged him harder than I ever meant. "Yeah. Are you?" He just buried his face in my shoulder. A week later, things were quieter, but I could tell Siar was fading. The sigil on his wrist had nearly disappeared. He stared at his hands. "They want me to come back," he finally admitted, The circle, he said, voice flat, controlled. Too controlled. My superiors. They realized I've been gone too long. A demon isn't supposed to stay topside this long, unless he's on assignment. He glanced at me. And, technically, I'm not. I tried to joke, because that's what I do when I'm scared. So what? You've been on unpaid leave this whole time. His mouth twitched. Something like that. Then, more softly, they want me to return. To resume my post. Hell's bureaucracy doesn't take kindly to emotional attachments. The air thickened. I didn't trust my voice. And, you're going? He hesitated, looked down at his hands. I told them I wished to quit. My head snapped up. Wait, what? You can quit being a demon? He let out a weak laugh. Apparently, yes. Not many do. I was approved. His voice cracked, and it wasn't something I'd ever thought I'd hear from him. I don't know who I am if I'm not that. If I'm not fire and brimstone and rules I hate, but follow anyway, I don't know what I am without it. I stared at him, this infuriating, gorgeous, impossible creature, sitting on my couch in my hoodie, smelling faintly like pepperoni and me, confessing like the world was about to end. Hey, I said softly, reaching out. My hand found his, and he flinched like he didn't think he deserved it. You don't have to know right now. You don't have to have some epic purpose or cosmic identity. He frowned. Then what am I supposed to be? I leaned closer, heart hammering, voice shaking just a little. You'd be mine. He froze. For once, no witty comeback, no teasing remark, just wide amber eyes, flickering like candlelight. You mean that, he whispered. I've literally survived flying furniture, spontaneous fire, and whatever that cursed pizza was last week, I said. If that doesn't scream commitment, I don't know what does. A small, disbelieving laugh escaped him. Then another, and then, like something cracked open inside him, he cupped my face, gaze burning, voice low. You are utterly absurd, human. I get that a lot, I murmured, smiling. Now shut up and kiss me before you vanish. And he did. It wasn't gentle. It never could be with him. It was wild and desperate and alive, like everything that had ever been chaotic between us, condensed into one perfect, reckless moment. Sparks flew, literally this time, lighting up the air around us. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against mine, breath shaky but sure. I don't want to go back, he whispered. Good, I said, smiling through the sting in my chest. Because you're already home. He blinked, eyes glinting gold. You're sure? You're really sure about this? I nodded. You're mine now. And I'm yours. Demonic, fine print and all. He laughed softly, pulling me closer until our noses brushed. Then I suppose I'm officially retired. Retired? I grinned. Oh, so now you're going to spend eternity judging my laundry habits? He smirked. Obviously. And as he kissed me again, no smoke, no sigils, just warmth. I realized the most impossible thing of all had happened. The demon I accidentally summoned had found something he didn't even know he was missing. And somehow, impossibly, so had I. Half a year later. 6 months later, the apartment looked almost normal, the keyword being almost. The summoning circle was gone. Well, mostly. There was still a faint scorch mark on the floor that no amount of scrubbing or demon-safe detergent could fix. But otherwise, no levitating. Pizza, no spontaneous sparks, just quiet mornings, mismatched mugs, and the sound of Shiar cursing at the toaster like it personally offended him. He wasn't glowing anymore. His eyes were still amber, but softer, less fire and brimstone, more honey and warmth. His skin didn't shimmer when he was angry, and he discovered that human emotions came with entirely new complications, like hangovers and laundry and taxes. The first time he burned toast, he'd looked personally betrayed. This infernal machine defies logic, he'd yelled, waving the blackened slice like a sword. "It's literally called a toaster," I said, trying not to laugh. "It toasts. It incinerates. That's kind of the point." He'd glared at me for a full 10 seconds before sighing dramatically and muttering, "Being human is exhausting." Now, as sunlight streamed through the curtains, I watched him move around the kitchen in my, well, his now, hoodie, humming off key while he made coffee. He still used too much sugar, insisted pizza was breakfast food, and forgot socks existed until his feet got cold. But he smiled more. He laughed more easily. And every so often, when he thought I wasn't looking, he'd touch the faint mark on his wrist where the summoning sigil used to glow. Like he was reminding himself he was free. "Stop staring," he said without turning around. "I'm not staring," I said automatically. He glanced over his shoulder with that smug, teasing grin that hadn't changed one bit. "You absolutely are." "Maybe," I admitted, stepping closer and slipping my arms around him from behind. "Still can't believe you're actually here. Human. Mine." He snorted. "Yes, well, being human has its perks. For instance..." He turned in my arms, leaned in close, and kissed me, soft but certain. "I get to do that without accidentally setting your couch on fire." I grinned against his lips. "Progress." He rolled his eyes, pretending to be exasperated, but failing miserably. "You're insufferable." "Yeah, but now you're stuck with me for, like, 80 more years," I teased. "Give or take." He hummed, pretending to think. 80 years of pizza, chaos, and hoodie theft? I suppose I can endure it? We fell into laughter, easy and unhurried, as the coffee pot hissed in the background. He leaned his forehead against mine, his eyes warm and human, and full of something I didn't have a word for. But maybe I didn't need one. "I used to think eternity meant endless fire and duty," he said softly. "But maybe it just means this. You. U.S. living, learning, burning toast." "Welcome to humanity," I whispered. "You're doing great." He kissed me again, slow, certain, sweet, and in that tiny, messy apartment that had once been a disaster zone of magic and panic, I realized something. I didn't summon a demon. I found the love of my life. And honestly, I'd do it all over again. The end. If your ex-demon boyfriend turned human just to stay with you, what would you teach him first about being human? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.